Hello and welcome to Elvenhome, and to this edition which picks up on the work for the Quarry face and also shows me fitting the conversion kit, the Dapol NEM pocket conversion kit to a PECo Wagon. Doesn't go entirely smoothly, but I'll let you see it warts and all. So let's go onto the layout first of all and talk about that Quarry face. The idea of using an abandoned quarry to provide the face of the side of High Elven received a very warm reception, as you know it did from me when Arthur suggested it. And so I've been carrying on working how I'm going to get all this to sort of sit together. And what you can see is a piece of 3-inch thick foam sheeting, which I've used the hot wire cutter to cut out. Now, in case anybody's in any doubt, this is longer than it needs to be, certainly at this end, which is why there's only one locomotive and with its train running round. What I've done at the moment, let me just lift that off gently to bring you here. I've cut it along this side so that it fits into the side of the board, and you know, I've got to balance this so it doesn't all fall off. There we go. This board, it sags terribly. I'm surprised by how much, and at the moment it's got a prop underneath it, and I'll come back to this board because I think the next bit of work is actually completing the top of High Elven, or mostly completing, and the aim will be that I will cut this down probably only at this end, because I think this end may go just fine, I think, and that will be a section that can be lifted out so I can get underneath where the wires are, so that I can unplug all these plugs should I ever need to remove this completely for reasons of maintenance. Interestingly, I've never had any problem with trains running around this section ever. Now, of course, this track was all relayed about a year ago, and I was running trains the other day, and a train going on the inner loop came over the double slip and stopped dead, which was a bit of a shock. And a fish plate or a rail joiner about here had worked loose and had cut the power. So I'm going to put more direct feed, because there's only 2 wires to the center, but I will feed power to the sections over here so I don't have that problem again. But it does show you the importance of making sure you've got enough feeds in the right places. And I'm also glad I haven't raced on and done this and then found, and also that I'm doing it in a way which will allow me, in the eventuality of that ever happening again, that I lose all power and I have to get in there, that this board can come off. Now, as you can see, I've got the prop in. The top of the board is 5 inches from the baseboard, which is why I've got a 3-inch piece here, and there'll be 2 1-inch pieces sitting below. Oops, let me just get those to sit there. There we go. Move that in. Okay. Sitting below, probably a bit like this, slightly stepped out, and all of them will be given the edge of a file treatment to produce the facing that you can see here. I'm grateful to everybody that commented in the last video as to which color I might want to use, and particularly those who gave me comments about particular abandoned quarries. And the outcome of all of that is that any of the colors that you can see there would be a legitimate color for various quarries of various types of stone. Points were made about the fact that the quarrying here is well over 100 years since anything was last quarried, and whatever color the stone was originally, when it was first when the other stone was first taken away, it would have been seriously weathered. So I had a little go at weathering the darkest of the colours, which was the one I sort of liked the best. Now, I hope I can get this into focus. There we go. At the end here, I had a go with some of the WWS green moss, and I rather like the greenish hue that it's given there. And then I dry brushed with with ivory, I think. And in one or two places I hadn't got enough of the paint off, but the overall effect is really rather good. So I think I'm going more to the darker end. The trouble is, looking at them now, I still rather like this one. So I'll have to it'll come as a shock to you and a surprise, I suspect. Well, no, it won't be that much of a shock, because it will be one of these hues here, and I've got to make up my mind up which I prefer. The aim, therefore, over the next 3 or 4 weeks is to work out, build the tunnel portals for both sides, and build the end pieces, which from about here onwards are going to be permanent. They're going to be fixed down at each end, again fitting up to here, and I will find some way of disguising the join between the board and the front, whatever's there, because again I've got to be able to lift that out. I don't think that's going to be difficult. I think I know how I'm going to do it, and I may well use some of the bushes that you saw me buy, that you can buy in a sheet, because I think you could probably cut some of that to provide a kind of row of overgrown bushes right at the edge, which would disguise the top rather nicely, but still allow you to remove this, picking up that fringe with it, if you see what I mean. So I need to do that, but I think before I can do that, I really have got to complete the board here and put all the wiring in for the lights and everything else, because that will tell me where I can put the props that I need to put in to bring the front of the board up to the correct height. If I tried to do it the other way around, there's a danger that I'd find that I've got to make space for the props, and therefore I mustn't put wires in the place of it. It's the thing that you've heard me say many times before. You do need to think a bit about the order in which you're doing things, because otherwise it can catch you out mightily. So the aim, I think, over the next 3 or 4 weeks is to complete the ballasting of the track all the way around to where I think you won't be able to see it anymore, because that would be quite good, and get rid of the ballasting. And then to ballast the track up on the board here and fit the buildings and wire in all the lighting, so that can be screwed in, which is what it will be. It'll be screwed along the 2 battens to hold it firm, and I can fit the props where they need to be to bring the front height level so it's 5 inches, and then I can start constructing the stuff that sits around it. Whether I'll have all that completed by the end of July, I'm not sure, because we're going to be away a little bit of that, and I have other things that I'm doing at the moment which may take up a bit of time. But I think that's the next big block of work, and once that's finished, that will complete all the major structural work, and I can just go back to doing or actually carry on doing the fitting of the detail in the areas which I've partially completed and now need to go back to. So that brings you up to date with where we've got to in creating the front, and you can get an idea of what it will look like. And what I think we'll do now is we'll let the A4, this is the sound fitted one, which you may recall some time ago I fitted sound to, pulling the Thompson coaches, and on the other side I've got the sound fitted 8F, which has been upgraded to take some passenger coaches today. We'll let those two work their way around the layout, and then we will go and have a look at fitting the conversion kits for the NEM pockets onto a PECo Wagon. In the last video, I said that I would be converting some of my PECo wagons using the Dapol easi NEM conversion kit, which I've been informed about following my mentioning of the new tooled PECo wagons, which don't have industry standard NEM pockets on them, or at least pockets that are consistent with every other manufacturer in the UK. They may be some kind of NEM standard, but it's not the same as the one everybody else uses, which means that I wouldn't be able to fit the easi couplings into the NEM pockets that are on the new PECo wagons. Now, I'd not heard of this conversion kit, but a number of people had and put me in touch with it and said it was a very straightforward thing to do. So I thought I'll do it on camera. Now, I have already had a go at doing this, and it is indeed straightforward to do, but there were one or two things which were slightly different to how the instructions tell you to do things, which I don't know if they're particular to because this is a PECo wagon, but one of them was quite crucial, because the very first pocket that I put on, which was this section here, which is the outer pocket, when I came to fit the inner pocket, I couldn't get it in. And in fact, I broke that pocket in half for a reason that I'll explain in just a moment. But I have completed it. The wagon that is sitting on here, which is just a PECo kit van, does indeed have the NEM pockets on it. As you can see, I can take the coupling out and I can put it back in again. And it works fine. The level of the couplings is absolutely fine, works well with the other wagons, and I married it up with other PECo wagons and also a couple of other Farish wagons as a test, and it works absolutely fine. So I'll move that out of the way because I don't need that anymore. What I'm going to be doing the changes on is the Northeastern brake van kit. Now, this comes as a kit of parts that you basically screw together. You'll see it's a very simple construction, but it is absolutely identical to the one that PECo sells, that has been properly painted, tempo printed, and has on, the only thing that's missing is a lamp that sits on the back here with a little jewel in there, and there isn't one for this. You would have to buy that separately and add it, though there is a lamp bracket, which I imagine you probably have to file down to get that to sit on properly. What I'm going to do is take this apart, change the couplings, and do it in real time. So I've got the clock there, so you can see how long it takes me to do. The basic thing that we're going to be using is this end of the kit thingy, whatever it's called. So that sits on the track. You do get full instructions how to do it, and what you have to do. Yeah, so one of the things that I discovered when I was trying to do this is that this piece is used to help guide where you need to fit the pocket on the wagon, but it assumes that you can remove the coupling. Now, when I first tried to do it, I tried to do it with the wagon all assembled, and the coupling itself stops you being able to do that. So you have to take the whole thing apart before you try to marry up where it goes. But in fact, I discovered that actually it's not a problem. You really don't need to do that step, because there's not much space on here for the new pocket to go, and the new pocket has to go flush with the end. So it sort of takes out a step. But with other wagons, particularly Farish ones, where you may have the sprung coupling, the whole of that box may be a different size, and in that case you would take the coupling out, move this up until the end of the wagon is level, and then you fit this on which comes into contact. I've put it on to say tight. No, get it off. There we go. Which then comes into contact with the buffers and holds it in place so that you get the right place. I'm not going to worry about that because of having done the other one. So what I'm going to do now is shut up. Oh no, I'm going to tell you about one thing which I'm going to do in a slightly different order. Or two things, come to think about it. One of them is that in the instructions it tells you to fit this, which is the outer pocket, and glue it on, and then once that's dried you put this little bit inside, which is the thing that actually is sprung and holds the NEM coupling. I discovered that if you do it in that order, you have to be absolutely sure you get no glue in this slit here, because the inner pocket goes in and clips in to a hole on the top and a hole on the bottom. And of course glue did get in there, which meant I couldn't fit the inner coupling in. So when I had cleaned that coupling off, I then fitted the coupling with the outer part already in the inner part, and I suspect that is always going to be a better thing to do, because to get it, otherwise the glue is going to be a problem. You don't want to use lots of glue anyway, but it's better that you end up sticking this outer pocket inside this, though not getting glue all over the thing, than doing it in the order that Dapol suggests and finding you can't fit this in. So I shall fit this into here before I start, and you have to make sure, and I'm going to check this by looking at the instructions, that you get this the right way around. Now, excuse me, the thinner, you'll see that if I look here, one side is thinner and one is thicker. The thinner bit is the bit that's going to get stuck onto the wagon, and the tongue on this little thing, I'm going to be really hard to show you this because it's really hard to hold it. There we go. There's a tongue on the top there, and that needs to be uppermost. So if I get this and do that, try to do this on camera. There we go. Oh, blimey, that's nearly made it. You have to give it a good press to get it to click home. There you go. So that's now one pocket, and that's ready to be stuck on. The other thing I discovered doing these is you get these shims, and although they're one single piece of plastic, let me bring that into camera, hopefully, there we go. They're 3 different heights, and that is to help you make sure that the coupling is at the right height to be able to ensure that your or the pocket is at the right height so the couplings engage. In fact, with the PECo ones, they are very, very slightly lower than they need to be, but thinner than even the thinnest. I'll try and keep this in focus. Even the thinnest of the shims. I mean, it's really a tiny, tiny fraction out. So I didn't bother with any of the shims. I wasn't sure they really helped that much because it went from being a tiny bit under to being a tiny bit over. So I wasn't sure that made much difference, frankly, which makes life a little bit simpler. So what I'm going to do, as I said, I'm going to do it in real time. I've got another camera running so that if my hands get in the way here, hopefully they won't be entirely in the way there, but I will do the best I can, but this is quite fine work. So the first thing, I probably will just stop talking and get on with it, and we'll see how long it takes me to fit the 2 couplings that I need to do. So I've got one there. I need to get another one out and ready, which I'll do in just a minute. Pop that there. And I'm going to be using super glue to stick them on. It suggests a 2-part epoxy excuse me, in the instructions. You can use that if you wish. I think unless you're going to be doing lots of them, mixing up tiny bits of 2-part epoxy seems to me a bit of a nuisance, and the super glue seemed to work perfectly fine, again, as long as you don't splash it all over. Ancient cultural reference there. Okay, let's get on with this, and then we'll see what sort of a lash up I make of it at the end. Sometimes, as you saw there, things do not go according to plan. First of all, I encountered an immediate problem that, notwithstanding my wonderful 3.2mm nut spinner, when this model was made, I didn't have that, and so I was using the closest I could get to get these tiny little nuts on, and in the process, as it had been forced on, it had stripped the little pegs, so there was no thread that I could use to get it to undo, and I virtually had to pull them off, as you saw me doing in the video. Then there was the most awful howler, which was I set the pocket in the little device here the wrong way round, the first one, and I realized as I was doing the second one that I was going to have two beautifully fixed pockets, neither of which were capable of being used, which led for a bit of song and dance, trying to not stick to the first one whilst I turned it around and put it on the right way. As you saw, I then left it to cure for about, I can't remember, the clock will tell you how long that was, but I think it was somewhere between 8 to 10 minutes. And they've stuck on fine, and they've accepted the Dapol easy shunt couplings. They're ready to be used now, I hope. Whether I use them on this wagon, I don't know. I may not. So that is the process of doing it. And I haven't checked yet how long from the moment I started to finish, but I don't think that was 30 minutes, and I encountered two significant problems. The hardest part is cutting off the old coupling pocket and filing it down so that it's flat, so you can stick the new outer coupling pocket on. That is the most difficult bit of it with these wagons, because they're just about the right height. If you were needing to work out whether you needed one or more of the shims, it may be a bit more complicated, I suspect. But these things really are very straightforward to do, and I wouldn't hesitate to do it again, although I would hope the wagon would play ball a little bit better than that one did. So that is how you fit Dapol easy shunt conversion kits to a PECo wagon. That just about wraps up this edition of Elvenhome. The work for me over the next month or so is going to be in that left-hand corner. I'm looking forward to getting on with that, because once all that's done, that is the end of the major structural work. And it will be going back and completing the detailed stuff that I haven't yet done in many areas of the layout, actually. And I've still got to grapple with getting lights, street lights, in and around the terraces, Bagshot Terrace and Longbottom Terrace, which I haven't forgotten about, but I will come back to. If you have liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up. That's very helpful. And if you haven't subscribed already, as I always say, please do, because it'd be great to have you along. And as many other YouTubers now tell you, it doesn't cost anything. But more than that, if you have any comments on what you've seen, please do let me have them. I mean, just so as looking in front of you, a lot of what's in front of you wouldn't be here in the way that it is without the helpful comments that I've received right through the build of this layout. I'm going to take a few weeks before I put the next video up. It'll probably be the last Friday of July, or possibly the first Friday of August, not sure yet. We're going to be away for a few days going down south, and there's one or two other things that I'm doing at the moment which is taking a bit of my time. And I would like you to actually see some progress for the next video, so I want to give myself time to do that. So until I speak to you again in about a month's time, that's goodbye from me, and here's a look of a little look more of these engines running. Until I speak to you again, that's goodbye from me. Bye bye.